Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we've got a free agency Wave 3 episode and quarterback watch. Sorry about the lack of episodes. We just didn't want to put out an episode about, Jeremiah Ledbetter and then Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, which I am a big Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles fans. Where are they all at? Thought a quarterback might happen. Guess that's where we're wrong. You know, the thing about assuming, it makes an ass out of you and me. So we're doing one episode unless the Giants sign a quarterback this week or do something big. Justin, how are you?
Bobby, I'm good. Big tournament at the warehouse this weekend. So now I kind of hope that a quarterback doesn't sign this week. Hey, let's get the episode out of the way, and we're waiting, man. We're waiting. In the words of 21 Jump Street, we're finger popping each other's a-holes. Waiting on whatever quarterback to sign, and waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make some sort of decision, because it seems like the dominoes will fall after that. But we're probably going to be maybe repeating that same line, maybe even until the draft, maybe even after the draft. Who knows? It's his world. We're just living in it. Yeah,
with Aaron Rodgers, again, there's going to be speculation and all that. It's one of the more, I think, tightly lipped things around, because Rodgers does not want people around him that are going to leak, and then the teams want him, so they're not letting any type of information out because they don't want to piss off Aaron Rodgers, whether it's the Steelers or the Giants. So, any idea, I think that, from people the Steelers, are probably the favorite, which, again, if I were guessing, I would say that's true, but I don't think anyone really is sourced up and really knows that. And the Giants are, I don't know if they're confident, but they're willing enough to just not sign a quarterback, or make a move until Aaron Rodgers does something. So I still do not think Aaron Rodgers will be the Giants quarterback. I went from free agency preview wanting Aaron Rodgers to now not. I think all the red flags are up about what Rodgers brings, not necessarily off the field, but into the locker room. All my red flags are raised by the fact that he hasn't signed somewhere yet, that any report out is that he's going to take his time. That's fine. Do you, Aaron Rodgers? I still think you're the best quarterback available in free agency, but I'm not bringing you into this situation. I would have pivoted to Russell Wilson by now. I think Russell Wilson is a lot better than what the next option would be, which is getting into the Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston categories. It allows you to have some deep passing. You're not going to turn over the ball a lot. It's not going to give you this great, fun, consistently good offense. But again, I think it's a lot better than the other options. And I would pivot to Russell Wilson, not because I'm at lack of patience or a fan that's frustrated because there's no closure, because all the Aaron Rodgers red flags are up. And this is not. I don't think this is someone who's learned anything through the Jets process and humbled himself. I think this is someone who's stayed the same, which good for him. He's a 4-time MVP, Super Bowl winning quarterback. He can do that, but I also would not play that game if I were the Giants.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing, and that's where I was wrong, and you were wrong, and hey, maybe credit to you if you didn't think if you didn't fall for the whole maybe this Jets process will humble him a little bit. No, clearly not. Now, man, would I kill to be a fly on the wall in the Giants building right now? Because I am dying to know what John Mara is going through right now. I don't think John Mara is a very patient person. And if the plan that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen pitched to John Mara included a veteran, right? Not just the draft. Now, obviously, John Mara, you have to be patient for the draft because it comes the same time every year. But if the major pitch for Schoen and Daboll to keep their jobs was a veteran quarterback, a la they knew they were going after Matthew Stafford. They placed calls on Matthew Stafford in the middle of the season, so they knew that was going to be an option for them possibly in the offseason. So Mara knew about that, and now he's like, oh, well, all we have to do is convince Rodgers to, he doesn't even have to change his home address. Well, he just has to change his commute to work. Well, maybe we'll get that done by March, or middle of March in free agency, the first week after free agency. He probably thought that maybe this would happen a lot sooner. I'm dying to know how he feels about the vision for quarterback that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll pitched to him. and if it's the same or if it's going very differently than what he intended that their plan would be.
Yeah, and again, obviously, I'm sure a lot is around the draft, and I know it feels like every week there's a different, media, thought on what's going to happen with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, where, coming out of the combine, it's like Titans pick is available for trade. Shedeur Sanders may not go in the first round. To this week, it's Cam Ward is definitely going number 1. The Browns are going to draft Shedeur at number 2. Like this is not the show where we're going to sit here and speculate on, what happens until stuff like concretely or close or the concrete's wet on reports like that. Like Caleb Williams to the Bears last year or Jaden Daniels to the Commanders. You got a good idea in a sense what was going to happen there. So we're not going to sit here and speculate on that. But again, I reading the tea leaves is they either don't feel confident they're going to get a quarterback in the draft, or what I think is the more real one, because of the fact that they were so in on Matthew Stafford that they were going to trade away picks, pay him $110 million. And I know some people say, hey, well, they would have drafted a quarterback in the first round. No, I'm confident that they would have not. Is that they don't want to, right? They don't want to trade up to number 1 if it was available because of what that costs, and they don't want to take Shedeur Sanders. Now, I still think they may because they're going to be really damn desperate, but I think that's why they're so patient, is because they do think Rodgers is the best option, probably by a wide margin, over Russell Wilson and the rest of the quarterbacks in this free agent class, and they would much rather do the Rodgers and draft one in round 2, round 3 to appease ownership than Winston and Shedeur at 3.
Starting to see way more media people tweet good things about Shedeur Sanders too. Mel Kiper had some really nice things to.
Kiper has been consistent about Shedeur.
Yeah, but I'm even saying like publicly and tweeting and things like that. Things that it's been like this week that I've seen there's been a little bit of a Shedeur initiative. Not saying that's driven by teams or anybody, but seeing some and I've been asking for it, like, oh, where is it? And starting to see some pro Shedeur stuff come out from a lot of the talking heads and things like that. It's actually probably, what'll be, a week and a half, 2 weeks away from quarterback draft preview, so get excited for that.
Yeah. All right, Justin, before we get into the Giants free agent additions, I want to talk to you about something. SeatGeek. The MLB season is just around the corner, and we know how important the MLB season is. Basketball and hockey seasons, they're heating up. And artists like Morgan Wallen, Kendrick Lamar, and The Weeknd are on tour. Very similar artists there. They're all on tour. And, by the way, I'm going to the Homestead Miami race this weekend through SeatGeek. Now, I got to be honest. The tickets were given to me by a good friend. But he got them on SeatGeek, and he gave them to me. So thank you, Dominic. And with our partners at SeatGeek, you can now get 10% off any tickets with code GIANTS2025. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and guess what? More. Right now, you can get tickets to baseball games, NBA, and NHL, not to mention tons of concerts and other events. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Just look for the green dots. Green means good. Red means bad. An event I went to with SeatGeek was the Daytona race in August, and guess what? I saw the Wood Brothers win. They won again this week. Who would have thought I'd be in a world where the Wood Brothers won another race before I got their diecast of their most recent win? Last time they won back-to-back, I think it was early 80s with... Actually, no, it was 86, 87 with Kyle Petty. So excited to go see the Wood Brothers this weekend. And we come through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. You'll be glad you did. All right, Justin. So again, this isn't going to be the longest episode in the world, but wanted to touch up on the quarterback stuff. And then free agency wave 3. They made their big day 1 barrage of players, and then day 2, or then second wave was Javon Holland with some other depth pieces on the offensive line. Wave 3 is one of those things where we're going to analyze it, and people will say, what does this mean? And sometimes it means a guy that, his name is Jack Stahl, and he's battling to be on the roster. But a guy who I feel confident will be on the roster, and a guy I actually like, is the D lineman Jeremiah Ledbetter from the Jacksonville Jags. They signed a 1-year deal. This is the second free agent signing that the Giants have signed for a vet minimum, Justin, that I think is better than the guy at the same position they signed for bigger contracts. Because I like Jeremiah Ledbetter than Roy Robertson Harris, who was also a teammate with him with the Jags for a little bit. I think he's a legitimate, real deal run defender. I know you'll see metrics and stuff with guys. He was 32nd out of 150 defensive tackles in run stop rate, but his film shows up, and the cover one guys were on top of this, pre-free agency. So I popped on the film, Justin, and man, it's just like he's a good run defender, right? He's not this all-star or whatever, but like he holds up on double teams really well, right? He makes it hard for offensive linemen to get off to the linebacker, so that keeps the linebackers clean. When they're running these outside runs, he has great eyes to get in those plays and run with them. He controls every single block that you get. Now, he gives you nothing as a pass rusher, right? Like there's zero pass rush value, but I'm telling you, like, I think he's the second best defensive tackle on the roster right now. Right? Like, in my opinion, it goes Dex, Jeremiah Ledbetter. Number 3 would be Nacho. And then number 4 would be, Roy Robertson Harris, DJ Davidson level. So again, I don't think they've addressed D-line defensive tackle depth that seriously in free agency, which makes you think that that's probably what they're going to probably try and target that on either day 2 of the draft, or hell, maybe they're setting up to take it in round 1. But I do think Jeremiah Ledbetter is the best out of their top 3 signings. I think is the best player, right? Like outside of Paulson Adebo, Chauncey Golson, and Javon Holland, I think Jeremiah Ledbetter is the next best player. And I don't think it's even really close to either, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you, man. Now, the Giants do have 11 interior defensive linemen under contract, out of the 90 spots they're eventually going to fill out. Thanks to Research Rick for, tweeting that out. So, I mean, that is a lot. And hey, they could draft one in the top 3 rounds of the draft, and I would be like, hey, I think that's good, good way to address it, right? I don't think they need to draft 3 of them, with however many picks they have. But to go back to Ledbetter for a second. Now, I did this out of defensive lineman with 50% of 393 run defense snaps, and he's 19th in run stop rate. Because Ledbetter, he qualifies, even though he only had 4. He was on the field for about 400 snaps last year for the Jaguars. Half of them were run plays, and that qualifies enough. And in terms of average depth of tackle, he's sitting at 1.9, which is tied for 21st in the NFL in average depth of tackle among interior defensive linemen. And in terms of run stop rate, I mean, the 2 guys that he's next to, Vita Vea is 8.1% run stop rate, and Travis Jones, really good, I think a really good young and ascending interior defensive lineman from the Ravens, he's at 8%. So I don't even think it's a stretch to say that Ledbetter's the second best interior defensive lineman on the team right now. It could be more of a reflection of the guys that are left on the team right now, and not really, I think, a lack of depth that we have or a lack of good names that we have. But I'm excited. I mean, this is a guy that I think, unless they add a true difference maker, interior D-line in the draft, where we're like, all right, this guy needs to be the clear number 2. Right now, if they go in with these 11 guys into training camp, Bobby, I'm going in saying Ledbetter needs at least 400 snaps on the field for the Giants this year. I expect that to be the status quo for him if they go in with the same personnel.
Yeah, again, I think he's the second best defensive tackle in the group. Now, I go into the draft now as defensive tackle kind of is they have to address that early, because I don't think you can go into a year with just this group, though, of Dex, Ledbetter. I mean, I guess they did go into a year like that last year, and
they got killed. Their run game is horrible.
Yeah, I think now, again, Chauncey Golson will get snaps on the interior more as a pass rusher, and obviously you can put him on rundowns, but he's not going to be as effective. But I don't view that they've really invested in the defensive tackle group. Not going to read into it does this mean Mason Graham's the pick at 3? No, I don't think that necessarily, but it does feel like a team that's setting themselves up to address that position in the NFL draft. And obviously that's what's viewed as the strength of the draft. But I really like Ledbetter, right? I put together these is the reason we're talking about him first on this wave 3, but I think he's the 4th best free agent signed, right? Even though that there was there was 5 guys who were paid more money than him, and the rest are vet minimums, not including Darius Slayton or Greg Van Roten. I think he's the 4th best new addition, not guys that have been re-signed. So,
yeah, I agree.
Justin, the next guy they signed was Victor Dimukeje from the Cardinals, actually a former Duke guy. But first, the guy that he's not replacing, but happened on the same day, Justin, Azeez Ojulari went to the Eagles for a 1-year, $4 million contract. I never understood the idea that he would get anything other than a deal like this. I know at the trade deadline, he had 6 sacks in 6 games, 5 of which were in the last 3 games. But at the same time, we knew that wasn't sustainable, right? A lot of that was coming from stunt production. Kayvon was coming back from injury soon, and the injury history was still there, and then he obviously got injured on top. But I don't think if he doesn't get injured that he gets a significantly better deal. Now, I also would have signed Azeez Ojulari for 1 year, $4 million, but I think in reality, Azeez would rather sign with the Eagles for that deal than the Giants with that deal.
Yeah, I think he may play. I mean, and if we know anything about the Eagles, they have a rotation of pass rushers that they like to play. It's not like the Giants who, were relying on Kayvon, we're relying on Brian Burns to be in there and to be those guys. The Eagles like to rotate guys in and out, and hey, if there's one thing that former Giants players are learning, or even kind of reclamation projects in the NFL, you look at Mekhi Becton, go to the Eagles, go to good coaching, and you never know what can happen for you. So I think he's going to get more playing time with the Eagles. It just totally makes sense for a guy like Azeez Ojulari, unfortunately for us, to go over there and, hey, he'll have a healthy year and he'll probably light it on fire and then get paid even more money.
Yeah, like you said, you think because the Eagles and what we think of their pass rush that there would be less snaps on that team, but I don't think so, right? You have Nolan Smith as a starter there. And then Bryce Huff is the other one who the Eagles was a kind of a failed contract last year. And then it's Azeez, Jalix Hunt, who, again, I know because they won a Super Bowl, every mid-round draft prospect is viewed as this huge win if they get any playing time. But I don't view him. And then the other guy they signed is somebody who I kind of compared Azeez to contract-wise with Josh Uche. So I guess he'd be battling with Uche for, the third amount of most snaps on that defense. Now they could still draft it. But I just think there's more snaps there for him. And the injury history is really bad. And Azeez has not played like the 2022 version of himself the last 2 years. I know he had that streak of sacks, but he was not 2022 version. I would have been like, hey, I understand he's got the injury history. Throw him 1 year, $6 million and bring him back. But I'm just not going to bang on the table for a guy that has this type of injury history, this lack of consistent film production. I'll say he's obviously gotten a lot of sacks in his limited amount of playing time and has missed 22 games over the last 3 years. I just not going to do that, and that's why I was so willing to trade Azeez at the trade deadline. Just because I'm not betting on what we've seen the last 3 games from Azeez Ojulari. That being said, He'll go to the Eagles, have 12 sacks, and be the best edge rusher ever.
Yeah, more jokes will be made and shit like that too. But also, if Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns weren't not great against they're good at producing negative plays. They're good at hunting for the tackles for loss, and they show some flashes every once in a while. But Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau, 90% of every third down that the Giants face, I want those guys to be on the field for. It's the early downs where this is where I want the Giants now to kind of attack, philosophically when it comes to building this team. Because if those two guys are going to be the lead sack getters on the defense with our edge rushers, not counting Dex, if those two guys are going to be the leaders edge rusher wise, and if you want to rotate them in, well, then let's get run stoppers in here. And I think Chauncey Golston is a great addition. He's a strong guy. He's a guy with a little bit more weight on him. Whether that's, an area where we want to draft coming up, a guy with a little bit more weight, a guy that's a little bit more heavier. I don't know if Dimukeje is going to be that. I view him as a little bit more of a pass rusher / special teamer. I don't have a ton of expectations for him, even though we're going to talk about him. But I think philosophically, I'm okay with going away from Azeez, who, when he was on the field, he was just a negative when it comes to run defense. When you have Burns and Thibodeau off the field, I want to feel even better about our run defense. And when they're on the field, I'm going to feel good about the defense overall, all around, but especially about getting after the quarterback, since that's what they're really designed to do and paid to do.
And listen, if you said the Giants re-signed for 1 year, $5 million, I would have been happy with that. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and bang on the table for it. Again, he misses so many games, and I don't think his level of play has been anywhere near 2022 version of himself. If he was the 2022 version of himself while missing games still, hey man, he's not a perfect player, but he's not going to take this big contract, bring him back for depth. Unfortunately, we just haven't seen that. So, unfortunately, the 2021 draft class is complete, which anytime you share that class, it's probably... I got to go back and look at some Jerry Reese draft classes at the end because those were truly terrible. But that one was so bad, Justin. You know, you have a Kadarius Toney round 1, Azeez round 2, Aaron Robinson round 3, Ellison Smith round 4, and then Rodarius Williams and Gary Brightwell round 6. Not only was that a bad class, Justin, I went and looked at it. Those guys missed 127 games for the Giants. Like 48% of the games that those guys are on the roster, they all missed. You know, Toney 50%, and we forget how little snaps he played in a handful of games. Ojulari 32%, Robinson 78%, Ellerson and Rodarius 62%, and then Gary Brightwell was the healthiest at 22%. So, hey, Justin, we kind of hated the Gary Brightwell pick, but at least the man was not the most injured player, or he was the least injured player in the class.
Do you know what team he's on right now?
So last year, Kadarius Toney, Ellison Smith, and Gary Brightwell were all on the Cleveland Browns.
Do you know what team he is on right now, Gary Brightwell?
No.
He is on the Cincinnati Bengals. Their 5th string running back.
Good luck, Gary Brightwell.
Good luck, Gary Brightwell. Well, here's also, if you want a fun fact, since technically, the 2021 draft class is hitting free agency this offseason. So Lance Meadow tweeted this out. I didn't even know that he was still doing like Giants stuff.
He is?
But he tweeted this out about
need a prank call him.
The Giants, and then we'll move on to Victor Dimukeje, because he is the 6th member of the 2021 draft class the Giants have added in free agency. So the Giants have a brand new 2021 draft class.
Well,
Javon Holland was in the 2nd round, pick 36. Paulson Adebo was in the 3rd round, pick 76. Chauncey Golston was the 84th pick in the 3rd round. James Hudson was the 4th round, 110th pick. Stone Forsythe, 6th round pick, 208th. And then Victor Dimukeje, 6th round, 210th pick. So we have a brand new 2021 draft class on the team.
I know this is like, oh, wow, that's a crazy coincidence.
It's not a coincidence because the
what draft class is up for free agency? I know,
but I just found that to be funny.
We got to go get a 1st rounder bust from that class. Where's Caleb Farley at? Hey, you got familiarity with Shane Bowen. Justin, why don't you talk to us about something before we talk about Victor Dimukeje?
Today's episode is sponsored by Mando, the whole body deodorant that's changing the game. As someone who's tried it, left hand up, who am I? I'm a Mando. I can tell you this stuff works everywhere. Pits, thighs, and yes, even those awkward spots. Created by a doctor who saw how BO was being misdiagnosed, Mando is clinically proven to control odor all day long for up to 72 hours. That's a long, long time. Their aluminum-free formula is powered by metallic acid to stop odor before it starts, and Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers just like you, but not me, because I've used it before. It comes with the solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. I love the wipes. And free shipping as a special offer for you. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. What's the code? How about this? Use code TALKINGGIANTS, all one word, at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. You will be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Let's talk about Victor Dimukeje, the edge from the Arizona Cardinals. 6'2", 262 pounds, 25 years old. Like you mentioned, a 6th round pick from the 21 draft. We did a profile on him, Justin. Before we get into it, Justin, guess what I got to do with Victor Dimukeje?
You didn't interview him in a van.
It's a double
I know exactly what you did. And you know what's really funny? This is the first thought that ran through my head when he did sign. Number one, was he a college teammate of Daniel Jones? And number two, did he ever sack Daniel Jones in his NFL career?
Yes, former Daniel Jones teammate, which was was just like an automatic, like, hey, we'll talk about you on our draft preview for that position. I was a much bigger fan of Chris Rumph in that class, who like showed flashes but was just too small. And then Victor was not a big fan of. But yes, he did sack Daniel Jones, got a half sack in that Cardinals game. So I know metrics have been brought up on Dimukeje. Last year didn't play much, 0 sacks, 5 QB hits, 5 pressures. The year before, 4.5 sacks, 3 hits, 16 pressures. But we'll say, hey, his pass rush win rate was 22%, which is 5th in the NFL for ends. Well, the issue there, Justin, is that he had 145, defensive ends, outside linebackers who had more pass rush snaps than him. And on the Cardinals, who I think had the worst pass rush in the NFL, they gave 16 other guys more pass rush snaps than him. So I went and watched, scrubbed through some games of film on him. It's very Timon Fox-like, where, hey, a little smaller, not the most athletic guy, but he rushes with a plan, right? He knows how to use his hands. He rushes with a plan, so he can take advantage of bad tackle play here and there, but he's not going to bend the edge or anything. And then he's just doesn't really have the size and strength to hold up against the run, even though he's got some strong hands. So I know this will be like, oh, is this the replacement for Azeez Ojulari, edge depth? I view him more as a battling for edge 4 or 5 spot with Timon Fox guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I like him better than Timon Fox, if that's worth anything.
I do too, but I think it's similar. I think he's got a little more athletic than Timon, and his hands are a little bit stronger, but Fox probably has a better rush plan than him. But again, he rushes with a plan.
And if you want the real reason why I think he's brought in, now he may not even make the team, but every single year of his NFL career, he's logged over 200 special team snaps, including last year where 74% of the Arizona Cardinals special team snaps, he was on the field for. So that's good. And here's, if you really want to impress your friends when you're watching Giants preseason football this year, before the first game even comes on, and your buddies are asking you, hey, don't you listen to that podcast, Talking Giants? What are they saying about guys that are going to impress in the preseason? Jeremiah Ledbetter and Victor Dimukeje are going to have a hell of a freaking preseason. I don't know how much Ledbetter is going to play depending on how they view him, and is he a veteran, and do they want to give younger guys a shot? But I think Dimukeje is going to light the world on fire. If he survives the training camp and he makes it to the initial 90-man roster, in the month of August, I think he's going to have a hell of a preseason. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
I am going to do something right now. I'm going to look up preseason Victor Dimukeje. He actually didn't have a good preseason last year, but you know what? It's just
that's my prediction for the Giants. I think he can, because I think he's going to play a good amount.
Yeah, new team for Victor Dimukeje. But again, I another guy who's battling for spot. I think usually that's what this episode ends up being. Justin, and then the last guy the Giants signed was Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. Now, this guy is a clear special team player, but something I do like is, comes over from the 49ers, 6'2", 223, 28 years old. 7 starts in 5 years at linebacker. So again, he's not being brought in to play linebacker. He's been a key special teamer for the 49ers for 5 years. He plays, the majority of those snaps. Basically just doesn't do field goal block. He does basically everything else. But I am a fan of bringing in special teamers, Justin, who can be your last guy on the depth chart at a position, right? I've never been really a fan of like, oh, well, this guy, he is not the last guy on the depth chart. He is only special teams, to where if we get to him on game day, we're totally screwed. So welcome Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, congratulations for beating Roy Robertson Harris for the Giants free agent edition with the longest name.
Very good point. Very good point.
So that's it. This is why we waited to do an episode, is because there's not a lot going on. It's just waiting, and I don't think there's a lot of good information. Obviously, the Vikings thing came out today about Rodgers, about how they're not going to He's not going to be their quarterback. Basically, like,
Well,
I guess unless he gets, JJ McCarthy gets injured in OTAs again and they need a quarterback. But
I mean, they could always change their mind too, which that made me think that this process
when
could
are they
even
going
be
to change
more.
their mind, though?
If JJ McCarthy checks in after the draft and he's thin and frail, and they're like, "Oh, this doesn't look good." I don't know.
Yeah. So again, like, the Giants have to do something by that point.
Yes.
And so, like, Aaron Rodgers has all the more power to him to do whatever he wants and get away with what he wants, but I'm out, right? We're not talking, again, he's not coming off an MVP year. He's 3 years removed from playing, top 10 quarterback football in the NFL. If he didn't get injured for, week 1 against last year for the Jets, would that have been different? I do think so. I think things would have went better with the Jets, but they didn't. They got toxic, and there was a lot of bullshit. I'm not signing up for that. Okay. I'm not, there's not even like the smallest sign of like humility. And again, not if I were him, because it'd be hard to turn down millions of dollars, but in reality, he should retire, unless he, go to the, unless the Vikings did want him, right? Like, I understand Aaron Rodgers being like, Vikings or retire, right? Like, that seems like the best two options. He goes to the Vikings, they're Super Bowl contenders. And then if he goes to the Steelers and Giants, I don't think become a Super Bowl contender, and the Giants definitely are not a Super Bowl contender. So it's like, what are we playing for? To go off on a little bit of a better note, right? Like, at the end of the day, that seems big right now, but we don't look back at guys' careers and actually judge them on how it went at the end. We just don't. We think so in the moment, like, does this hurt his legacy? It doesn't, right? We will only remember Aaron Rodgers for the Green Bay Packers years. But I would pivot to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but I'm less excited about Russ than you are.
I'm not excited about Russ. I think he's the best option.
Yeah, that was a nice deep ball, and I'm serious. Like, that's not even like a joke. Like, hey, there's numbers to back it up. Top 5 in EPA per drop back when he's throwing the ball 20 plus yards, and I mean, and there's film there too. I mean, the film of he throws a nice ball on the sideline. I just don't love when an offense is relying on that. When that's the source of your explosive plays, it brings me back to basically what we lived through 2020 to 2021. Hey, that was the source of the Giants' explosive plays, is throwing the ball 20 plus yards down the field on the sideline. Now, the difference would be is that Russell Wilson is really good at doing that. And then you have Malik Neighbors, which we didn't have before. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We got to continue to wait, though.
Yeah,
wait.
That's an episode. We will see you guys when we see you. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate you, Justin. Appreciate the listeners. We'll see you when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.